Hi folks, Nancy Love here. Used to be for the Planet Peace Project, now just for grins and purposes. Uh, I'm actually thinking of changing the name of this channel to Politically Incorrect Tough Love, otherwise known as PITL. And every day, or almost every day, we'll piddle on someone. I'm not having any fun here on Earth. Um, so, subscribe. If you're looking at these videos, please subscribe to monetize the channel. These days, a person needs 1,000 new subscribers within the last 12 months, and in all the time I've had this channel, I haven't gotten anywhere near that. And also 4,000 viewing hours, at least that's what it was the last time YouTube contacted me. However, YouTube does arbitrarily send out information stating that they can monetize a channel anytime they darn well please, without your permission and without compensating you. So, go figure. Um, Today we're going to talk about Paul McCartney. And it's one of the ways that I'm getting radical here. Paul McCartney died in November of 1966. Yeah, Paul McCartney really is dead. The guy that has been posing as Paul McCartney for several decades is actually Willy Campbell. Right before McCartney died, there was this doppelganger festival in which people tried to have this contest in like a festival where people who looked like John Lennon or George Harrison or Ringo Starr or Paul McCartney competed for prizes of who looked most like all those four people. Well, Willie Campbell won. Boy, did he ever win, because when Paul McCartney really did lose his life in a car crash at 5 a.m. after jamming at a session with the other three Beatles all night, he was drunk, he was angry. John Lennon and he had a fight about something, and he was driving too fast and literally didn't see the light had changed, and he blew his mind out in a car. And people recognized him, but he died. Now, Ringo Starr did come out uh, and say this, and I think it was Hollywood Reporter interview several years ago. And then, of course, somebody said, oh, well, he's bonkers. No, he's not bonkers. He is utterly, absolutely not having dementia. What he's having is moral qualms about having lived a lie all these years. And look at the skull, look at the height, look at the changes that occurred very, very suddenly in what appeared to be Paul McCartney, right? We all knew it in the 60s. Nobody was fooled in the 60s, but you folks who only grew up with the one version of McCartney don't figure this out, because you didn't see someone suddenly go, first of all, they disappeared for a few months. They were the most popular band on the entire planet, and they just disappeared. When they came back, Paul McCartney had grown 4 inches taller. Yeah, people don't just suddenly become 4 inches taller. What he also had, and this is something that cannot be changed in plastic surgery, he had a long rectilinear skull. That was Willie Campbell with a long rectilinear skull. Paul McCartney had a skull round and short. His skull was more shaped like a basketball. Look at the very early photographs and videos of, say, the Ed Sullivan Show performances or whatever. Paul McCartney had a completely different shaped and sized skull. It also gets to the point where here's something else that's extremely difficult to change with plastic surgery, and that is the inter-pupillary distance. If you measure the distance between the very epicenter of the pupils of the eyes, that distance tends to remain constant even during nasal plastic surgery or whatever. And Paul McCartney's interpupillary distance was significantly greater than that of Willie Campbell. So we all knew that. Now, why? Why would anybody fake being Paul McCartney? Well, MI told him to. They said that the Queen at the time demanded that they replace Paul McCartney, not tell the public that he had passed away, because, quote, too many women would commit suicide, unquote. If you didn't live through that era, you don't remember how it was. They really were the first major band to hit the planet, and they really were um, just really cherished and beloved. But it gets stranger. It gets a lot stranger. And here we go with the PITL, politically incorrect, tough love world. It turns out that there may have been something like subliminals in their music. Those people who do listen, who have played Sgt Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album backwards, do find subliminals, including the words "Turn Me On, Dead Man" and "Paul is Dead." It wasn't a joke, and the fact that the cover looks a bit funereal, it's all true. All that stuff is absolutely true. Um, it was a memorial album to the real Paul. And the Willy Campbell person is walking across the street barefoot, and in Britain they bury dead people without shoes. You know, at least they're free from that slavery while they're gone. So why would MI and the Queen want to do this? They said it was because they didn't want a bunch of young women committing suicide, and that may have happened or may not. But there was something else going on. Subliminals, probably in the early uh, music of the Beatles. And there was something I read. This gets weird. I apologize. Don't shoot the messenger. I just am reporting on this, not making it up. But there are press reports of police officers, particularly in Britain and also in New York, who had to ride herd over, and herd mentality is probably the right concept here, had to ride herd over the aftermath of these concerts. When the Beatles left the building, so to speak, and went to their tour bus, they had to be guarded very heavily, or women would have swarmed them, and God only knows what. And these people, these law enforcement officers who were guarding the Beatles at that time, said they would find themselves standing in rivers of urine. That for some reason nobody's been ever been able to figure out, and I personally can't figure out myself with all my training in psychology and behavioral medicine and physiology and all this. I still don't really understand that. But women were so excited to see the Beatles in person that they were peeing. And I can't help but think that that has something to do with military intelligence, mind control, something or another. I don't know what's going on with that. You make of that what you will, but do your own research. There is I promise that's the weirdest thing I'll say today. There is an album that Willy Campbell, Paul McCartney, fake Paul, has put out, in which he suddenly yells out the words, "I was Willy Campbell." So it turned out pretty well for him to be a faker, and he's a billionaire. But what's cool about it is he's done a lot of good. Yeah, he filled the world with silly love songs, and some of them are downright irritating. Especially that "Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time." You know, I'm not cool with that. But he's an animal rights advocate. He is a pioneering, beautiful animal rights advocate. And I love him for that. So, Willie Paul, fake though you may be, at least you're a real animal advocate. And for that, the world is grateful. Oh, yeah. And for some of your silly love songs as well. In memoriam to the real Paul, in love.